My stepdad slammed my disabled sister into the fridge, then broke her nose with his knee. Bleeding and shaking, she crawled to grab her phone and called me. I drove 5 hours through a storm. My mom said, "It's just a scratch." What happened next still haunts me. I still remember the ice-cold shock when my mom looked me dead in the eye, after my disabled sister called me bleeding, and dismissed it all with, "It's just a scratch." That moment shattered everything I believed about family, but it was just the beginning of a nightmare that ripped apart our lives. It was just past 2 a.m. when my phone started vibrating, a relentless buzz cutting through the deep quiet of sleep. I groggily swiped, my heart lurching when I saw May's name on the screen. She never called this late, not unless. I sat bolt upright, instantly awake. "Kais." Her voice was a fragile whisper, barely there. He threw me against the fridge. My blood ran cold. "Who?" "May, what are you talking about?" A shallow, ragged breath. "Randall." He snapped again. Smashed me hard. My nose. "I think it's broken." I was out of bed before she finished, scrambling for the light. "Where are you now? Are you safe?" Her voice cracked. "I'm on the floor, bleeding. Crawling to my phone." He left. "Mom's here, but she's just screaming. It's just a scratch. She thinks I'm being dramatic." And through the phone, clear as day, I heard my mother's voice, sharp and cutting, "Quit whining, May. You're always trying to make people feel sorry for you." I froze. Couldn't breathe. My sister, May, had a spinal injury a couple of years back. A freak accident, a bad fall, then surgery that just didn't take right. She could walk, yes, but slowly, carefully, always in pain. When Randall got angry, and he got angry a lot, she never stood a chance. "I'm coming," I choked out, already pulling on sweatpants. "Stay put. Keep the phone close. Lock your door if you can." I tried, she whispered. "The lock's broken." Of course it was. "I'll be there, May. 5 hours, maybe less if I push it." She tried to say more, but the call cut out. Just silence. I moved like a whirlwind, coat, keys, wallet, all grabbed in a blur. A quick note from my neighbor, Trina, "Emergency, please check on Ellie," tucked under her door, then I was out. The rain was coming down sideways, the wind howling like a banshee. Portland doesn't often get weather this vicious, but tonight felt like the sky itself was enraged. I couldn't hesitate. Couldn't. The guilt, a raw ache in my stomach, was for all the times before. The times I hadn't pushed hard enough. Like when Randall threw a plate at May, shattering it at her feet. I'd told Mom he was dangerous. Her response: "He's just stressed. Don't make a scene." And now May was calling me from the floor, bleeding. I hit I-5 south, pushing the needle higher than I should have, the rain slicking the road. Every curve in the highway brought a fresh surge of panic, but I forced myself to focus. Memories came unbidden, sharp and painful. My mom used to be good. Warm, even. Until Randall. He had this unsettling way of speaking, smooth as a preacher, calm, calculated. People liked him, at first. But behind closed doors, he was a ticking bomb. And Mom? She always stood by him. May, needing protection, an advocate, instead, she got Randall rolling his eyes at her limp, and Mom sighing, as if May's very existence was an inconvenience. My hands cramped on the wheel. May, my sister, used to be light, bright. She sang, she painted, her laugh could make anyone smile. Now, even her whisper trembled. The rain turned icy as I navigated the rural back roads leading to their town. My breath hitched. I tried to calm the inferno raging inside me, but it wouldn't extinguish. The first sliver of dawn broke through the storm, painting the sky with bruised purples and grays. Gravel crunched beneath my tires as I turned onto their street. The porch light, a lonely beacon in the fog, came into view. I slammed the car into park and marched to the front door. Knocked once. Nothing. Again, harder. Footsteps shuffled, then the door creaked open. My mother stood there in her bathrobe, arms crossed, her face a mask of blank indifference. "You didn't need to come," she said, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. "It's already handled." I didn't say a word. Just walked past her, my gaze fixed on the kitchen. And then I froze. The air reeked of bleach, harsh and aggressive, as if someone had scrubbed in a frenzy. But it couldn't hide the streaks of dried blood still clinging to the fridge, smeared, smudged, damning. My chest tightened, a cold vice. Then I saw her. May, huddled on the kitchen floor, back against the cabinet. Her hair was a tangled mess, cheeks swollen, tissue stuffed in her nose. One eye was already a horrifying purple. But the moment her gaze met mine, her face crumpled. Not with pain, but with profound relief. A relief she denied herself for far too long. "Hey," I whispered, dropping to my knees. She reached out, fingers trembling, and I cupped her bruised face, gently, carefully. Her eyes welled, but no sobs. Just silent tears rolling down her cheeks. "I didn't know who else to call," she whispered. A lump formed in my throat, thick and painful. "You did the right thing." I wrapped my arms around her, holding her tight. She felt so thin beneath her sweatshirt, her breath coming in shallow, shuddering gasps. She clung to me like a frightened child. "You're here," she murmured, as if she still couldn't quite believe it. "I'm here," I promised. "And I'm not going anywhere." Footsteps creaked behind us. My mom stood just beyond the hallway, still in her robe, arms crossed. Her expression was a chilling blend of annoyance and indifference. "He left for work," she stated flatly. "Like a man should. No need to cause a scene." I didn't answer. Turned back to May, brushing hair from her face. My hands were shaking. "Do you want to rest?" I asked softly. "I'll make some tea. Check on the house. You just breathe." She nodded, slow and careful. I helped her to the couch, tucked a blanket around her. Then, quietly, deliberately, I went back into the kitchen. The bleach smell was even stronger now. I threw open the windows. Something primal was stirring inside me. More than just anger. More than the helpless guilt this house always brought. Something was terribly wrong. As the water boiled for tea, I fumbled in the drawer next to the fridge for a spoon. That's when I found it, a manila folder, tucked beneath a haphazard pile of old bills and receipts. Unlabeled, unassuming. But the second my fingers touched it, I knew. Inside were photographs. Dozens. Each one dated, labeled in May's neat, scratchy handwriting. April, left side rib. June, shoulder bruising. August, wrist discoloration. Some showed her back, crisscrossed with deep blue shadows. Others, faint fingertip patterns on her upper arms. And then, the hospital reports. ER summaries, X-rays. All stamped, chillingly, accidental injury. I stood there, numb. It wasn't just last night. This had been happening for years. Quietly. Hidden. Documented. And no one had done a damn thing. I walked back into the living room, the folder pressed tight against my chest. May looked up from the couch, her face pale, but her eyes, now, sharper. She saw the folder in my hands and froze. "I wasn't snooping," I said softly. "It was just, there." She looked away, a long silence stretching between us. "I kept those," she whispered finally. "In case I ever needed to prove it. In case someone believed me." I sat beside her. "I went to the police once," she said, her voice trembling. "Took the photos, filed a report. But Mom followed me there. Told them I fall a lot. Told them I was confused. They believed her." Her fingers clutched the edge of the blanket, white-knuckled, like it was the only thing tethering her to this world. "She told me I'd break the family if I kept lying," May added. "Said it would ruin everything." I couldn't breathe. "I'm sorry," I choked out. "I should have seen it sooner." May didn't reply. Just closed her eyes, a single tear tracing a path through the dried blood on her cheek. I pushed myself up, each step toward the hallway feeling impossibly heavy. My mom stood there, now dressed, brushing her hair as if the world hadn't just imploded. "You knew," I said, my voice barely a whisper, yet it felt like a scream. "You knew, and you let it happen." She met my gaze in the mirror, her eyes utterly devoid of emotion. "It's not like she's dying," she said, her voice chillingly flat. "Everyone has hard days." My blood turned to ice. "She has fractures." I snapped, the words like shards of glass. "Bruises shaped like hands. A broken nose. And you're talking about hard days." "You always were dramatic," she muttered, dismissive. "She's not some angel. You think I haven't had to deal with her tantrums? Her falling all the time." "She didn't fall." I spat, each word a venomous arrow. "He threw her." My mom rolled her eyes. "You just make everything worse." And that was it. Something inside me snapped. Not with a shout, but a quiet, definitive crack. Like a door I'd held open for too long, finally, irrevocably slamming shut. I stared at her, the hallway suddenly claustrophobic, frigid. For the first time, I saw my mother. Not the woman I thought I knew, but the stranger who had always been there. I couldn't move. Her face was still, flat, almost bored. As if May's suffering, my anguish, was nothing more than an inconvenient stain on her perfect life. I didn't recognize her. Or maybe, I never truly had. I stepped onto the porch, the old wood groaning beneath my boots. The low-hanging Oregon clouds dripped that pervasive dampness that seeps into your bones. I pulled my hoodie tighter, my chest burning, my legs trembling. Not from fear, but from the certainty that everything had to change. May couldn't stay here another night. Not another hour. I'd driven 5 hours through a storm thinking I was coming to offer comfort. I was wrong. This wasn't a visit. This was a rescue mission. Inside, she sat on the couch, cradling a chipped mug of tea, as if it were the only thing holding her together. Her nose was still swollen, the bruises under her eyes deepening into yellows and blues. Her wrist was starting to puff. She gave me a shaky nod as I re-entered, as if she'd read my mind. "Start packing," I said softly. "We're not staying." She didn't ask questions. Just slowly, painfully, stood and limped toward her room. She began gathering her things. A few minutes later, I joined her to help. Her drawers were a chaotic mess, and with one arm barely usable, she struggled. While she folded clothes with her good hand, I opened her desk, looking for a charger or meds. One drawer stuck. I tugged harder. Something was jammed in the back. I reached in and pulled out a thick, familiar book, an old copy of Little Women. Its pages were carved out, a rough, square hollow. Tucked inside, wrapped in duct tape, was a phone. "May?" She froze, saw the book in my hand, and sank slowly onto the bed. "That's the backup," she whispered. "Randall smashed the first one. Said girls like me shouldn't be texting strangers." She looked down, tracing the edge of the blanket. "I bought that with birthday money. Hid it from Mom. Just in case something ever happened again." I wanted to scream. But I couldn't. Not now. Instead, I tucked the phone into my pocket. "We'll take what we can carry," I said, my voice firm. "You're coming home with me. For good." Her lip trembled, but she nodded. In the kitchen, grabbing her medications, something caught my eye near the counter. I remembered setting up a small savings account for May last year. She'd told me she hadn't touched it, didn't know how. I pulled out my phone, logged in. My hands went cold. Every month, like clockwork, her disability checks had been deposited. And then, cashed. Not withdrawn. Cashed. May had followed me in, silent. "Did you use this account?" I asked, my voice tight. She shook her head. "Mom handles it." I blinked. "Handles what?" "She told social services she helps me. Said I can't be trusted with that kind of money. Safer this way. She gives me a little sometimes if I ask nice." I stared at the screen. Thousands. Gone. All while May wore the same worn-out shoes from high school and rationed painkillers. I didn't even breathe. I stormed into the living room. "She's your daughter." I snapped, my voice shaking with rage. "And you've been stealing from her. Letting that man beat her. You knew." My mom stood by the hallway mirror, adjusting an earring, utterly unfazed, as if preparing for a leisurely brunch. "You think you're better than me just because you left," she said, without even looking at me. "You don't know what it's like to keep this house running, to make decisions no one wants to make." I did what I had to do. "No," I said, my voice low, laced with venom. "You did what was easiest. And you let her pay the price." She finally turned to face me, her eyes hardening. "Don't you dare come into my house and judge. You left. You ran off to your little life and left the rest of us to deal with the mess." Before I could respond, the front door burst open. Randall. He stepped in, shaking rain from his flannel, and stopped dead when he saw me. His eyes narrowed. "What's this?" May shrank behind me. I stepped forward. "We're leaving. Don't say a word. Don't touch her. Just move." His jaw clenched. "You think you can just waltz in here and take her? She's not a piece of furniture. She's a person," I said, my voice steady, "and you're not taking her." "I already have," he sneered. We locked eyes, a silent battle. My hands trembled, but I wouldn't back down. He took a step towards me, and for a terrifying second, I thought he'd strike. Then he let out a low, bitter laugh and turned away. Fine, he muttered. She's your problem now. I didn't wait. Grabbed May's bag, guided her outside. The drizzle had picked up, a steady mist. I pulled her hood over her head. My mom stood on the porch, arms folded, lips pressed into a thin, tight line. She watched us leave. Didn't say a word. Didn't ask where we were going. Just watched. We didn't say much after that. I merged back onto the road, the rain now a gentle mist across the windshield. My mind, however, wouldn't quiet. Replaying everything, Mom's chilling voice, Randall's sneer, May's broken face. The more I pieced it together, the deeper I saw the rot ran. We'd believed Mom, because we had to. That's what kids do. You trust your parents like they're gods, until one day they're just people. And sometimes, not even good people. The road narrowed, turning onto a gravel path bordered by towering firs. A faint light filtered through the branches, casting long, trembling shadows. I slowed as a small, weathered cabin appeared, set back from the road, surrounded by stacked firewood and overgrown ferns. I parked. May was silent beside me, clutching that envelope, her fingers trembling. I reached for her hand. Before I could even knock, the porch light flickered on. The door creaked open. A man stepped into view. Older, gray at the temples, but tall, upright. His clothes worn but clean. His face, etched with time, held a mix of shock and something almost like fear. His gaze landed on May. He froze. You look just like her, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Your grandmother. May's eyes welled up. I kept your letters, she said softly. He stepped back, still stunned, opening the door wider. Come in. We entered slowly. The warmth hit first, a soft, steady heat from a wood stove in the corner. The comforting smell of broth filled the small space. A worn quilt lay folded on a nearby rocker. It felt like stepping into another world, one untouched by the venom we'd left behind. He didn't ask questions. Not right away. Instead, he made tea, set bowls of soup on the table without a fuss. No grand speeches, just presence. Quiet, steady presence. After we ate, I leaned forward, finally breaking the silence. We don't have anywhere else to go. Not tonight. You don't have to explain, he said gently. You're safe here. It was such a simple sentence, but its weight. I didn't even realize I was crying until I tasted the salt on my lips. I glanced at May. She was watching him, her face open, vulnerable, hopeful. Some part of her had trusted him all along. But me? Something still held me back, a knot in my gut. If he was safe, then why had Mom worked so hard to erase him? You're safe here, he repeated, refilling our mugs. But as I looked around that quiet house, every instinct screamed, this isn't over. Not by a long shot. Sleep didn't come easy that night. The storm outside had faded, but something else, something colder, still pressed against the windows. I stayed awake on the couch, listening to May's shallow, uneven breathing. I watched the fire dance in the stove for a long time before pulling out my phone. The voicemail. I hit play for the fourth time. My mother's voice, a quiet threat wrapped in silk, she's still a minor, callous. You're interfering. Don't forget that. No yelling, no panic. Just cold, absolute control. That's what terrified me most. From across the room, May stirred. Are they coming here? She whispered, her voice barely audible. She didn't need to say who they were. I won't let them near you, I said, forcing my voice to sound stronger than I felt. I promise. Morning arrived in shades of muted gray. Mist hung like a veil over the trees, the air smelling of wet pine and wood smoke. Gramps brewed coffee the old-fashioned way, a percolator gurgling on the stove, filling the cabin with a comforting aroma. We sat at the worn kitchen table, and I finally asked the question that had gnawed at me all night. Why did Mom cut you off? Gramps took a slow sip of his coffee. His hands, rough and weathered from years of work, were steady. She forged checks, he said simply. Hospice checks. They were for your grandma's care, near the end. I caught her, reported it. Next thing I knew, she was gone. Took you too. Changed numbers. Changed everything. I blinked. I thought Grandma passed peacefully. Just, faded. She died scared, he said quietly, his gaze distant. Alone. Your mother emptied the account and vanished before the final bills even came due. The weight of his words settled in my chest like a cold, suffocating fog. No amount of denial could cushion this truth. I looked at May. Her face was pale, lips pressed tight. She reached for the sugar and accidentally knocked her spoon off the table. It clattered to the floor. She crouched to grab it but paused. "There's a gap," she murmured, pointing to the corner beneath the bench seat. I crouched beside her. One of the floorboards was loose. "That's strange," Gramps frowned. Together, we pried it up. Dust motes danced in the light. Beneath the plank was a tin box, wrapped in a faded towel. Inside, old Polaroids, a bundle of letters, and a yellowed envelope marked "Last Will and Testament." My breath hitched. The paper was brittle, but the ink still stark, dated 12 years ago. I scanned the lines, my heart hammering. "In the event of my passing, all property, assets, and holdings shall be equally divided between my granddaughters, Calice and May." My name. Her name. In writing. I looked up at Gramps. His eyes were wide. "I forgot I hid that," he said, almost to himself. "Back then, I wanted to protect you too. Your mom was never meant to get a cent." I snapped photos of every page, every signature, my hands steadier than I thought they'd be. "If they try to take her back," I said, my voice trembling with a new, fierce fire, "this goes straight to the court." Gramps gave a short nod. "You've got your grandma's strength," he said. She would have liked that. Later, in the quiet living room, the old clock ticking softly, I researched legal aid clinics in Eugene. Every click of the keyboard, every typed word, rooted me in something real, something proactive. "I'll need proof of injury, too," I mumbled. "May's bruises. Her nose." Gramps opened a drawer and pulled out a boxy disposable camera. "Took some shots last night," he said. "Old habit." I took it from him, a silent thank you. May shifted closer on the couch. "I want to talk," she said, her voice barely a breath. "To someone official. I'm tired of pretending I'm fine. Tired of feeling like if I say anything, it'll only make things worse." I looked at her, this girl who'd spent years shrinking herself to survive, and saw something new behind her eyes. Not just pain, but a glimmer of fire. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A low, grave voice. "We know where you are. You have until sunset." The line went dead. I stared at the screen, then at the cabin door, which suddenly felt impossibly thin. "We need to go," I said, standing so fast the chair scraped the floor. "Now." Gramps didn't argue. Grabbed his keys. May clutched the camera to her chest like a shield. I grabbed the will, the letters, and the one thing that mattered more than any evidence, my sister. We didn't pack. Didn't speak. We left everything behind. Just grabbed the camera, the will, and the girl who refused to be broken. We drove straight to the clinic. May huddled in the passenger seat, her face pale, the bruises blooming in sickening yellows and blues. She hadn't spoken, just rested her head against the cold window, watching the blur of trees. Her eyes were glassy, but no tears fell. The waiting room smelled of bleach and stale coffee, faded posters advertising flu shots and back pain. I checked her in, handed over her ID and mine, and we sat. The nurse called her name within 10 minutes. I wanted to go with her, but May just whispered, "I got this." I stayed put, the disposable camera gripped tight in my lap like a lifeline. Through the glass behind the counter, I saw Gramps still in the truck, engine running for warmth. His silhouette, leaned back, arms crossed. This was too much for him, I knew, but he was there. That meant something. I watched the second hand of the clock creep around until heavy, intentional footsteps approached. I looked up. A man, 6 feet tall, built like an old lineman gone soft, gray mustache, uniform, a sheriff's badge gleaming on his chest. "You?" he asked, his voice smooth, like we were chatting over pie. I nodded. "I'm Sheriff Wallace. Mind if we talk a sec?" His tone was friendly, too friendly. That unsettling note people strike when they're hiding something. He didn't sit. Just stood a little too close. "I know your stepdad. Hank and I go way back. T-ball days, you know." I met his gaze. "This isn't about baseball." His smile twitched. "Just wanted to see what all the noise was about. Your mom called us early this morning. She's concerned. Said you might have taken May without consent." He called for that. I folded my arms. Not for the broken nose. Not for the bruises. Not for the fact May crawled to her phone because she was afraid he'd kill her. His eyes didn't flinch. Look, kiddo, I get it. Families fight. Sometimes kids say things that sound worse than they are. Maybe she tripped. Didn't want to get grounded. She's still technically a minor, right? I stood up. She's 17. And that kid is terrified of going back. He shrugged. Just saying, stirring things up might bring Child Protective Services into this. If it turns into a custody thing, they don't always leave kids with siblings. Might end up in foster care. You don't want that. Something cold rose in my chest. Not fear. Clarity. This man wasn't here to help. He was here to make this disappear. Is that a warning? I asked. He gave me a long, practiced look. I'm saying it's complicated. The exam room door opened. May stood there, hugging her coat around her thin frame, her nose still red but cleaned. She must have heard. Her face went tight, jaw clenched. I'm not making it up, she said, her voice low but steady. He did it. He's done it before. Wallace turned to her. Sweetheart, no one's saying you're lying. When I was 11, May cut in, he broke my arm. Mom said if I told anyone, I'd get taken away and never see her again. The room froze. Even the receptionist stopped typing. The sheriff looked from her to me, his smile finally gone. Just silence. A middle-aged nurse with tired eyes and good instincts emerged. She put a gentle hand on May's shoulder. Sheriff Wallace, she said firmly, as a mandated reporter, I need you to step back. This is a medical facility, and she just disclosed prior abuse. He didn't say anything at first. Then a curt nod. I'll make note, he muttered, turning to leave. When the door shut, May leaned into the nurse. I'm sorry, she whispered. You have nothing to be sorry for, the nurse replied softly. You did the right thing. I stepped forward, touching May's hand. You were brave. Her fingers gripped mine. I'm tired of being scared. We thanked the nurse, got a printout of her injuries, and walked back outside. The sky was overcast, that strange gray tint making everything feel like winter. Gramps was still waiting, tapping the steering wheel. In the truck, I pulled out my phone and called the legal aid hotline I'd bookmarked. My voice was clear now. No tremble, no second guessing. Yes, hi, I began. My sister was assaulted. We have photos, medical documentation, and an old will that confirms our standing as heirs. Her abuser is known in this town, even to law enforcement. I need someone who isn't afraid to fight this. The woman asked questions. I answered with a calm I didn't know I still possessed. Next to me, May exhaled slowly, curling into a ball beneath her jacket. I'm proud of you, I whispered. She didn't say anything, but for the first time all day, she smiled. Just a little. We pulled into Gramps' driveway just before sundown. I helped May inside, setting the disposable camera and the will on the kitchen table. I'd scan copies later. Gramps turned on the radio, soft, crackling old blues drifting through the living room as May dozed on the couch under two blankets. I checked every window, locked every door. Everything felt still. Then came the shatter. Glass exploded inward from the front door window, a rock clattering to the floor, wrapped in paper. My heart hammered. The note, scrawled in thick black marker, leave this alone. The rock had landed inches from May's head. Now it lay on the table next to melted ice and glass shards. I picked up the soggy, smeared note, the ink still legible. You think you've won. Stay quiet or next time it won't be a rock. My thumb brushed the corner where the paper had been curled tight around the stone. May was still asleep, her breathing shallow. I spent the next hour sweeping glass barefoot, the broom's rasping sound too loud in the sudden silence. I double-checked every lock, every latch, with a cold, mechanical dread. Outside, the wind rattled the gutters. Inside, it was impossibly colder. At dawn, I left a note for Gramps, slipping the rock and note into a Ziploc bag. May was curled on the couch under my old quilt. Gramps had fallen asleep in the armchair, stubborn. That girl doesn't need to see more men who walk away, he'd muttered last night, settling in for what he knew would be a fight. I went to the downtown sheriff's office, specifically avoiding Wallace. A younger deputy, alert eyes that didn't dodge. Introduced himself as Ruiz. He took one look at the rock and note. You did the right thing bringing this in. No, kiddo, no T-ball memories. He took it for forensic review, handing me his business card. Don't trust yet, but take the help that's offered, a quiet voice in my head warned. By the time I got back, May was at the table with Gramps, poking at oatmeal. Her face was swollen, but no longer bleeding. The bruises bloomed purple-blue. Gramps sipped coffee, one eye always on the window. That evening, the call came. Miss Callis, this is Deputy Ruiz. We ran the note. The handwriting matches your mother's employment records from the county library 3 years ago. Do you want to press charges? I didn't hesitate. Yes. That single word cracked something inside me. I thought I'd feel relief. Instead, I felt hollowed out, confirming a truth I'd denied for years. She really did this. I filed for an emergency restraining order that same hour. The court clerk didn't ask many questions. Maybe she saw the bruises in the photos. Maybe she'd seen it all before. By sunset, I had a signed paper, and a locksmith was pulling into the driveway. May watched from the porch, arms crossed tight. Gramps stood beside her, his cane planted firm. You girls aren't sleeping alone again. End of story. Later that night, May came into my room, holding something small and pink. I found this in the back of my closet, she said. I used to hide things inside. I don't know why I kept it. She handed me her old music box, a plastic ballerina spinning under a cracked mirror. I opened the lid. The faintest tinkle of off-key music. Beneath the felt lining, something shifted. I peeled back the cloth. Taped under the panel was a tiny SD card. He didn't know I had it, she whispered. We sat side by side on my bed as I plugged it into my laptop. The screen flickered to life. The first file played immediately. A wobbly, dim phone video, pointed at a hallway. May, maybe 10 or 11, yanked by the arm through a doorway. Her face turned to the camera for a second, tears streaming, her voice barely a whisper. Please don't. The second video was darker, mostly shadows and muffled sounds, but one voice was clear. My mother's. If you ruin this family again, I swear to God, you'll regret it. Do you understand me? Click. I stopped the file. May wasn't crying. She just stared. 5 more files were on that SD card, but I couldn't watch them. Not yet. I emailed everything to Sharon, a legal advocate friend in Eugene who owed me more favors than she liked to admit. 20 minutes later, she called. Callis, she said, her voice sharp with urgency. This isn't just a restraining order. You've got evidence of historical abuse, intimidation, accessory to assault, and obstruction. I'm sending this to the federal unit. You're doing the right thing. I nodded slowly, though she couldn't see me. And just as I started to believe we might actually be safe, May screamed from the kitchen. He's here. May's scream ripped through the quiet, raw and utterly terrified. I was halfway across the living room before I registered it, bare feet pounding the hardwood, arms swinging on instinct. She was huddled behind the kitchen island, knees curled to her chest, blanket clutched tight. Her breath came in ragged gulps, one trembling hand pointing to the side window. He was right there. I moved fast, grabbed the old chipped bat I kept under the sink, the one from my long-ago community league. Crept to the window, careful not to slip on the remaining glass shards. No one. But outside the back door, clear as day, were muddy boot prints. I locked every bolt, closed every curtain, double-checked every latch. Still, May was shaking, her earlier lip injury reopened. I said nothing, just sat beside her, holding her until her breathing slowed. It took the sheriff over 40 minutes to arrive. Wallace, who didn't even bother with his lights, just strolled to the porch like it was a neighborly visit. He tilted his head. Raccoons get bold this time of year. Maybe she saw a shadow. I showed him the boot prints. The rock. I even opened my laptop, pulling up the video files, May being dragged, her voice pleading off-screen. He didn't take a single note. You don't want to overreact, Callis, he said, tugging at his jacket buttons. You'll scare the girl more than she already is. Did you even watch the footage? I demanded. I glanced, he muttered. Looks like a domestic spat. I watched him walk away, dismissing actual evidence, my stomach turning. Something about him felt complicit. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message, it's Deputy Ryan. Call me. Use this number. Off the record. I stepped outside, by the old shed, and called. He answered on the first ring. You weren't imagining it, he said. Wallace has been playing poker with your stepdad for years. They go way back. My jaw tightened. So that's why he wouldn't even write up a report. That's why, Ryan confirmed. But I've been pulling records anyway. You need to hear something. He offered to meet near the lake, off County Road 11. Private. Close enough I could leave May with Gramps. I drove out just before midnight, headlights off until the last bend. Ryan sat on his truck's tailgate, holding out wired earbuds and a phone. Old 911 call from a domestic complaint at your mom's house 3 years ago. Never followed up. I took the earbuds, pressed them in. Static at first. Then, a female voice sobbing, a shuffle. Just hold her still, a male voice shouted. Then a loud thud, more crying. Ryan paused the clip. Recognized the voice. I didn't. But May, sitting in my passenger seat, I'd brought her because she begged not to be left alone, reached out, her hand gently touching my arm. That's Jacob, she said. My brother. My stomach dropped. Ryan didn't say a word. He didn't have to. He used to lock me in the garage, May whispered. When Mom went shopping. Said I was too loud. One time I screamed for so long I passed out. When Mom got home, he said I fell down again. I closed my eyes, biting the inside of my cheeks until I tasted blood. I knew Jacob was cold, never one to check on her, never there to help her up. But this betrayal. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room, shadows flickering across the walls, replaying the recording. A voice I'd trusted. Helping a man hurt my sister. Helping silence her. By morning, Ryan sent another message. I found something else. You need to hear it. This time, he sent an audio file via a secure link. It started with a woman's voice. Familiar. Controlled. Just say the injuries were from a fall. We don't need another lawsuit. Then another woman, quieter, unsure. But she said he hit her. That's not what happened, the first voice snapped. And if she says otherwise, she'll ruin this family again. I recognized it instantly. My mother. Ryan's note, clinic visit 2 years ago. Recording submitted by an informant who overheard the conversation. Her partner, your stepdad, filed a $380,000 insurance claim for back injuries from that incident. And just like that, the last piece clicked into place. The lies. The minimizing. The silence. My mother hadn't just forgiven him. She'd protected him. Again and again. Because their entire house of cards was built on deceit. Because if May had been taken seriously, the insurance money would have vanished. Lawsuits would have reopened. Their family image shattered. I stared at my phone until the screen dimmed. May was still sleeping when I got back, curled on the couch under that same blanket, a small scratch on her lip from where she'd bitten down during the earlier panic. She looked so young, so fragile. But not broken. She had survived more than I ever knew. And she was still here. I brushed a piece of hair from her forehead. I promise you, I whispered. This ends now. Just when I thought the betrayal had peaked, the court date arrived. And she brought him. With a lawyer. The morning air was sharp, biting, as I wheeled May up the courthouse ramp. Her hair was braided loosely over one shoulder, a soft blanket folded in her lap. Her hands rested there, like she didn't quite trust them to be steady. I'd offered her a cardigan, her favorite blue one with embroidered robins, but she didn't put it on. I think she wanted them to see the bruises still blooming under her sleeves. She never said it aloud, but I saw the resolve etched in her jaw. Across the aisle, my mother sat next to him, the man who had shattered May's nose, left her bleeding on the kitchen floor. His suit was too big, like he was trying to appear important, but it only made him seem smaller. Mom leaned in to whisper something, then actually laughed. A cold, dismissive sound. The bailiff called the session to order. My pulse thudded in my neck as I sat beside May, my hand still resting on the back of her wheelchair. I could feel her trembling. She didn't want pity. She wanted justice. And I owed her that much. The defense attorney, slicked back hair, too much cologne, stood first. Your Honor, he began smoothly, this case is based on emotion, not fact. My client, Mr. Weston, is a man of modest means who took in a child that wasn't his. He gestured at May, dismissively. And he did his best under difficult circumstances. Miss Callis, however, has a history of instability, unresolved guilt, and personal vendettas. This is not about truth. It's about revenge. I didn't flinch. But May's grip tightened on the armrest. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s with silver hair swept into a knot, raised a single brow. Let's see if the facts matched the theory. When my turn came, I stood. My knees wobbled, but I wouldn't let it show. Your Honor, I said clearly, my voice steady, I have a video file from my father's old security system, dated March 12, 5 years ago. It's grainy, but the audio is clear. I ask the court to view it. A slight pause, then a nod. Play it. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered to life. Our old kitchen, dimly lit, late evening. May, maybe 12, sat at the table, eating cereal, her feet not touching the ground. He walked in behind her, yelling something unintelligible at first. Then the audio picked up, "You think you're special. Just like your sister, running your mouth." May turned to look at him, didn't even speak. He yanked her out of the chair so fast her body slammed against the fridge. The camera angle didn't miss it. Then came the part I'd never seen until Ryan gave me the USB. My mother, standing in the corner, arms crossed, watching. Not moving. The room went silent. You could hear someone breathing 3 rows back. He kneed her in the stomach, hard. She folded, crawled. Then the screen went dark. The lights came up. The jury looked stunned. One juror wiped away tears. Even the defense lawyer's face had lost its confidence. He leaned in to whisper to my mother, who stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. The judge adjusted her glasses slowly. "Is there any explanation for this footage, Miss Weston?" My mother didn't answer. Next, a nurse from the local clinic took the stand. She looked familiar. She'd treated May once for a sprained wrist. Her voice was steady but strained. I flagged 3 separate injuries on May's medical chart between 2018 and 2020. Each time, reports were retracted by her mother. She looked at the judge. "We believed we were protecting a family. We were wrong." The judge nodded slightly, then reached for a folder beside her. "I've also received a sealed file from the district attorney's office." My heart stalled. She opened it slowly, then looked directly at my mother. "Angela Weston, you are hereby charged with obstruction of justice, perjury, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud." The air left my lungs. 2 officers approached. My mother's face twisted, not in confusion, but in pure, unadulterated rage. "This is a mistake," she barked. "I did what I had to do. You think raising a disabled child is easy? You think I had choices?" She stood, eyes flashing, voice sharp as a blade. She was always weak. Always crying. Always needing something. "And callous, you're always judging me. You don't know what it's like to hold this family together." The judge didn't flinch. "Ma'am, you are out of order." My mom kept shouting as they escorted her out, but I didn't hear the words anymore. May didn't cry. Didn't speak. She just watched her go. Her face unreadable. It was well past 3 that afternoon when we finally got back to Gramps' house. The air had warmed, a gentle breeze rustling through the trees. I parked in the driveway, carried in the groceries first, soup, crackers, chamomile tea. Then, I wheeled May up the porch ramp. She remained silent until I pushed open the screen door. "Can we stay here?" she asked, almost a whisper. "Just stay for a while." I nodded. "As long as you want." That evening, I changed the locks again. I installed a small security camera above the porch. And at May's request, I hung the old wind chimes by the kitchen window, the ones shaped like little leaves. Their soft, melodic sound danced in the evening air. We sat on the front steps, sharing soup from the same pot, legs curled under us like we were girls again. No TV. No phone. Just quiet. After a long while, May leaned her head on my shoulder. "You believed me," she whispered. "When no one else did." I didn't say anything. Just squeezed her hand. "Have you ever stood up for someone when the cost was absolutely everything? Would you still do it again? Take care."